Guan Yu used to be a must-invest infantry commander, whether you were a main infantry player or not. And with the recent power creep with all these new super overpowered commanders coming in the game, some people have said that this is changing and that Guan Yu is actually becoming somewhat obsolete. Today I will discuss all of my opinions on this matter, whether or not I think Guan Yu is still a good investment, and how I think he will fare in the future. If you are interested in Guan Yu and how effective your Guan may be in the future, you definitely have to check out this video. Let's start off by going over all of Guan's skills. His active skill, probably his most powerful skill. If he's the primary commander, he deals direct damage to 3 enemies in a forward-facing fan-shaped area, damage factor 2000. He also has a silence on each target that he hits. Nowadays, the damage factor is not as good as it used to be. For the most part, this is kind of stock standard damage. Guan Prime actually does this twice in one skill cycle. ZHUGE obviously does a lot more damage than this just overall. And for the most part, his silence gets really hard countered by some commanders, but it's still a very valuable debuff. So I really still like his silence for the most part. It also is a 3 enemy silence. Like, this is unheard of except Guan. No one in the game does silence, let alone to 3 enemies. His second skill is just rallies, so it's absolutely useless, and that's another downside of Guan. You have to kind of get either really lucky or end up maxing out this skill, which is kind of useless to you. Guan's third skill, he gains 30% increased attack, which is alright. I mean, having attack is not the best, but for infantry, it's not too bad either. Some commanders are very health and defense oriented. He also has 15% increased march speed, which is good. Infantry tend to be slower, and with this march speed, they're not as slow, which I really do appreciate. He does have a healing factor on that skill whenever you leave battle, so I've seen a bit of, like, I guess, cheesing, where if you leave battle, go up to an enemy flag, and you kind of just spam hit it with your Guan, then you can guaranteed just heal up to max, basically. You can keep hitting the flag and keep healing, which I really like. So if this flag had burnt, it was empty, and you have a Guan that's maybe on 150k units, keep hitting the flag, and it will count as leaving battle, and it will heal you up to max units. Fourth skill, when the skill Saint of War, which is his active skill, has hit 1 enemy exactly, he has a 50% chance to deal additional damage factor of 1000, which is really nice. When it hits 2 or more enemies, there's a 50% chance to deal additional damage factor of 1400 to the main target. So basically, this kind of negates the reduction per target here, and I think that's really nice. I mean, it actually negates it and adds even more damage. On average, you'll get 700 extra damage factor if you hit 2 enemies, and 500 if you hit 1 enemy. So yes, this is a really good skill, and I think it's a fairly powerful skill in terms of damage, even nowadays. But then again, you've got commanders like LIANG, I'm going to keep bringing him back up, where they just deal a lot more skill damage overall, even with this skill added onto Guan. His expertise is okay. I mean, it synergizes well with some commanders like Scipio and Alex, and even Leo, but the way it works is, whenever he gains a shield, he also increases his skill damage by 15% for 3 seconds. That's nice. And whenever Guan Yu leaves a structure, he increases his march speed by 100% for 3 seconds. So, good to get away from a battle. Obviously, you can just go into a structure, leave the structure, and be gone in the next 2 seconds. And then after that, the shield is also really good, especially if you're running him with an Alex, Scipio, or a Leo. Even Charles Martel could work, but there is an issue with this shield. It means he has to be the secondary to really benefit from it, if it's an active skill shield. If not, I mean, he doesn't have to be the secondary. And this does also kind of restrict him if you expertise him, as into who you would pair him with. Now, here's the next issue with Guan I want to bring up, and it's his pairs, okay? Guan Yu's pairs back in the day used to be basically anyone. You put your Guan with anyone, it's going to trade good. Guan Alex was amazing. Guan, actually, Martel was not bad. Guan Richard existed. It wasn't amazing, but it did exist. Guan Leo used to be cream of the crop. Nowadays, every single combo I just mentioned does not trade well enough on the field to really be considered. Besides possibly Guan Alex, some people still use it. Personally, I still think it's a bit of an underpowered march, and Alex and Guan do have better places. This march also kind of gets wrecked by Boudica Zulaying. Boudica with anyone or even Henry just wreck Alexander the Greats nowadays. So Alex is a complete different topic, but he doesn't really pair as well with Guan as he used to. Guan CJ was pretty good for a time being, but that also is a bit too squishy now, and I don't like it personally. And other than that, you've got about 2 pairs left. You've got Scipio, and you've got Tarek, and maybe Sargon. These are all 3 completely new meta commanders. And if we're being realistic, commander like Sargon, I mean, he's pretty good, but he's a bit more niche. So if you're running a Guan, you're running him with Scipio. And what we've started to notice is with reports, looking at Zulaying reports, looking at Nevsky drone reports, they're kind of starting to fall behind. This combination, which is Guan's basically main, and for the most part only combination that can somewhat withstand the new commanders, is kind of slowly becoming obsolete. I've seen a lot of people moving away from their Guan. I'm not gonna lie. This KVK, between all the battling we've had, even in 1093 and 1307, there weren't as many Guans as I would have expected. I mean, they existed, sure, but there weren't that many. If there were more, I would have been like, okay, maybe Guan is still usable. But over time, there have been less and less Guan Yus, and I think this is just because they can't keep up with the Imperium game, and they really can't keep up in general. Commanders like Zhulang, who have just released, completely shred Guan. Like, there are reports, I have them, of Zhulang just destroying Guans. If we go into my personal favorite reports where I was using a Zhulang, you can see that Zhulang inside of Ark of Osiris testing actually annihilated a Guan. This is a 5511 Zhulang with a 5515 Henry, and it destroyed a Guan. Once again, I also did this test another time. This was with a 5511 Zhulang and a Max Boudica. It destroyed a Guan Scipio. We had no test. She was a higher VIP. She had an extra piece of technology, which I don't have. We had no equipment, and it got destroyed. Guan got annihilated, and this is really where the issue starts to arise. Lilith has been trying to phase out Guan. I think they've noticed that a lot of players have Guan Yu. They've noticed that everyone's using Guan, and no one's been deviating from having their Guan with the newest infantry commander. Whether this be because of the synergies with Scipio and how Scipio does benefit from silence targets, this could be a one reason why Guan is still a okay pair with Scipio. But I think Lilith kind of wants to change this, and I think the next infantry commander, I'm gonna call it now, is going to try and push that Guan and Scipio combo further apart. Because I think that what Lilith really wants to do is drive players to get the newest commanders, and that's why the new Archer commanders have basically become silence immune if we're being realistic. You put Boudica with Zhulang, you've got a 90% chance to shrug off silence. Like, there is no shot you're going to get silenced. It's a 1 in 10 chance for you to get silenced. And if we're being realistic, a Boudica Zhulang is not going to stick around in a fight for 10 turns to maybe occasionally get silenced by Guan. You can see straight off, all the new Archer commanders completely and utterly counter Guan. Before Guan Yu could actually beat Nebu YSG in a duel, that's because Guan Yu's silence was so good, and Lilith realized that, and they've made commanders silence immune. Boudica, basically silence immune. Zhulang, if you put him with Boudica, basically silence immune. If he's with Henry, he could still be silence immune. It's just a 1 in 2 chance instead of a 1 in 5. So you can see Lilith is definitely trying to push that Guan Yu out of the meta. There is still good news though for almost every player, and that is Guan Yu is still good. For now. In the current meta, Guan Yu still definitely holds a valuable place in a lot of murder balls. His silence is very powerful, and his AoE damage, while not amazing as it used to be, is still up to standard. It's nothing that's really fallen behind. So I think Guan still has possibly a year or two left in him before we have to see about moving him from your murder ball. If I were you and you are an infantry player and you run at least 2 infantry marches, I'd definitely be keeping a Guan. Even if you run 1 infantry march, a Guan with a Scipio is still really good. Like, this combination definitely still works, and I've been wrecked by it a few times in my recent KVK, just by the AoE. The AoE on Guan Scipio is still really good, and there's no doubt about that. Now, if I were you, I don't know if you're a free-to-play new player to the game, if I would go straight for Guan. I think there are just better options. I think, for now, put infantry on pause. I think cavalry and archers, straight up, at the moment, in the current meta, are just better. For Cavs, you can get a commander like Minamoto, if you're not free to play this is, and put him with your Nevsky, and you're going to have a basically meta march. This march is really good. I also think Joan Prime is obviously better than a Guan, and especially with Nevsky, that's going to just demolish. For archers, really, Boudica and Zhulang beat a Guan and a Scipio any day. They do more damage, and Zhulang with Henry also is really good, and Zhulang with YSG even works if you're in the field and you don't really get hit. So if you're looking to make a new march now and you're a very, very, very free-to-play player, and maybe you're just getting to Season 3 when you can access all of these new commanders, then I think don't get Guan. I don't think it should be a top priority. This does mean that Guan's overall investment value has definitely dropped. I think when he first came out, he was the best investment by far and away. I think even a year to a year and a half after he came out, he was still the best investment by far and away. But nowadays, I don't know if that's truly the case. I think there are just too many much more powerful commanders for people to really go for first before they truly consider getting a Guan Yu. That being said, if you are a free-to-play infantry main and you really just want a Guan Yu, it's still reasonable. I mean, putting him with Scipio is still a good march. Putting him with Tariq actually works. And even sometimes I've seen Guan with Sargon can work. So if you are a free-to-play player and you are really an infantry main, Guan is still an option. Like, he's not off the table. Just know within maybe the next 2 years, he may not be as good as he is now. That being said, Guan Yu does still have value in some situations. For example, the daily special offer, He is probably the best commander there by like far and away. Some people say William may be a little bit better. I guess that's an understandable perspective. I like Chandragupta, but for the most part, out of every commander there, Guan Yu is the best one. So if you've just gotten to Season 3 and you want to get all these new commanders, Guan Yu is the best one for you to purchase by like far and away. It's basically not even close. Now, if you enjoyed today's video and maybe I gave you some informed perspective, or you just like the information I provided, or even if you like the sound of my voice, consider checking out yesterday's video where I discussed all the new changes to Champions of Olympia. And if you don't, there may be some times where you miss out on gold heads that Lilith didn't properly explain. Now, if you did enjoy, I do thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.